So, welcome everybody. Om Shanti. So today we are having the pleasure of having Brother Charlie with us, the National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris, Australia. He's a true seeker, studying architecture at Melbourne University at the age of 22. He decided to practice Raj Yoga meditation at the Brahma Kumaris. Since then, it's been a remarkable journey of 45 years. Having a treasure of inner experiences, he's a living example for translating spiritual philosophy into practicality. A very warm welcome, Brother Charlie, from the Thai family. We also have the pleasure of having the National Coordinator of Thailand, our dear Sister La, who is at the moment translating the introduction. May we please have the pleasure of having you, Sister La, on the English channel. It's so good to see you both together.
So thank you so much, Sister Prajawal. It's really a delight to be with you. And I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. Actually, it's 6 p.m. I'm in Melbourne at the moment, though I do live in Sydney. And what I would like to do tonight is to share some of my thoughts and have a little bit of reflection and meditation experience. And then there will be some time for some questions. Tonight we're going to be talking about inner leadership. And in the last 3 months, our world has turned completely upside down. I don't think anyone could imagine that the world would be so different in just 3 months. Everything has changed, almost all aspects of life. And so where does all this change land? Where does it all arrive? It all arrives in our mind. It's like the mind is the center of my world. And the big thought in most people's minds at the moment is, what will happen? What will happen? What is the outcome of what we're seeing at the world at the moment? What will be the future? And this means that there's so much anxiety in the minds of human beings, so much worry, fear, and anxiety about the future. And really, in a sense, it's a signal from life, a signal from our time that we need to look inside. And to manage this time, we really need inner leadership, each one of us. And if I look at the world today, there are so many crises. We all know them. We watch them on TV every day. We read them on our phones every day. I think most of us are tired of all the crises. But to me, one of the greatest crises is leadership. Everywhere in the world, I've traveled, I think, to around 100 countries. And I would say that everywhere people have lost faith in political leaders, religious leaders, business leaders, and if I can even say, even in the family. And one of my friends here in Australia is a journalist. And he has told me many times that never has there been so much written about leadership, but never has there been a time where there's such a lack of leadership in life. And Albert Schweitzer, the great German philosopher, poet, thinker, once said, example is not the best form of leadership, it's the only form of leadership. And really, I think if leadership doesn't have inner leadership, if it doesn't have inspiration, then it doesn't breed faith in those who are following. And when leaders don't walk their talk, when they say one thing and do other things, then people lose faith in them. And this is what we are seeing in our world at the moment. But for me, looking at our world, there's three conclusions I come to. The first conclusion is there's no turning back. You know, many people would like to wind back the clock, even 3 months, to when the world was more stable and more certain. Unfortunately, I think what we're going to see is more and more change, more and more social transition, more and more economic upheaval. And all of this means more and more pressure on my mind, on my emotions, and on my inner world. Seeing this reality, seeing a world of so much change, the second conclusion is I need a new approach to life. Unless I change the way I do things, all this change is going to knock me over. It's going to rock my boat. I won't be able to deal with all the situations coming in front of me. And one person some years ago asked me a simple question. And that simple question was, what do you have control over? And he said, do you have control over the economy? Of course not. Do you have control over your family members? Of course not. Do you have control over your partner or your children? Of course not. Ultimately, what do you have control over? Ultimately, my sphere of influence in life, my sphere of control is my thoughts, my attitudes, my words, my behavior, my actions. And I think one of the first steps of inner leadership is to understand I can't really change the world out there. I can't change a world under the influence of coronavirus. I can't change a world that's going through economic upheaval, but I can change my reactions to everything. The mark of an inner leader is that I maintain my inner stability. I have mastery over my reactions, even though the world around me is changing so much. And so I would say we need a new approach is the second conclusion. The third conclusion is to master inner leadership, I need a new wisdom. And what sort of wisdoms do we have in life today? I think we need 3 wisdoms to really be fully developed for all aspects of life. The first wisdom is my intellectual ability, my IQ. Now, this intelligence is so important for life. It helps me pass exams, develop a career, make money, provide for my family, etc. But if I feel anxious, if I'm afraid, if I feel depressed, does this wisdom help? I don't think so. And so many times we are well developed intellectually, but not so well developed, I would say, emotionally to deal with all the change around me. The second type of wisdom I would call emotional intelligence. And this is an essential intelligence for life. I often feel it's the wisdom to build rich, loving, sustainable relationships in life. To me, the most necessary quality of a leader is emotional intelligence. A leader with emotional intelligence can read people, can know how they're feeling, and then knows how to respond to them. I've seen some leaders who have, MBAs from the best universities in the world. They are so skilled technically, but not skilled emotionally. So they're not very successful leaders. Actually, those with the best emotional intelligence are usually mothers. And this is why I would say The most successful leaders in life today are mothers. They can understand people and know how to respond. But once again, if there's conflict, if I feel rejected, if I don't feel loved or valued, does this intelligence help? I don't think so. The third intelligence, which is the intelligence required for life today in this world of 2020, is what I call spiritual intelligence. If emotional intelligence is the intelligence to build rich, loving relationships with others, spiritual intelligence is the wisdom, the intelligence to build a rich, loving relationship with me. The first relationship in life is with me. If this relationship is unhealthy, it pollutes each part of my life. We have so much data that if I don't have a healthy relationship with myself, if I don't have self-esteem, self-value, it affects my health. It will definitely influence my relationships with others and also my performance in the workplace. So how important is this relationship? And to be very frank with you, my feeling, look at our world. All of you, we can all see what is happening in our world. Unfortunately, we're living in a chaotic and dysfunctional world. What is the seed? I would say the seed is a dysfunctional relationship in the mind of most human beings with themselves. There's 7.8 billion human beings in the world. And if most of us have an unhealthy relationship with ourselves, what sort of world do we get? We can see it outside. Because we've lost inner leadership, self-mastery, because we have no control over my thoughts, my attitudes, my emotions, what sort of world do we have outside? And this is why I would say inner leadership is essential at this time. Because even though we are so intellectually well developed, we really, most of us know we have no control over my thoughts, over my feelings, over my emotions, over my worries. If you have a fear, can you stop it? Can you just press a button and stop it? I don't think so. We've lost the power. A part of me says I should stop worrying about this because it's making me unhappy, but I can't stop. I have lost my inner leadership. And this is why really spiritual intelligence is the basis of creating inner leadership. And the first thing of an inner leader is to begin to understand my mind, to know and understand my mind. You know, my whole world happens in my mind. My thoughts, my feelings, my memories, my reactions, my relationships. It is all playing out in my mind. If I don't care for this mind, really, no matter what I have externally, no matter how well I am doing in the world outside, will I be happy? I once taught a billionaire in Melbourne here how to meditate. And he said to me, I've been a total success outside and a total failure inside. These are his words. I said, why? He said, I'm not happy. And really, happiness is really the foundation of knowing and learning about who I am. And the mind is an extraordinary thing. You know, of all the areas of science, we all see how fast science is moving. And yet the understanding of the mind is lacking, according to scientists. So the thing creating all the technology, we don't know so much about this thing. Some people say that in a waking day, you can create about 70,000 unique thought patterns. Now, I often quote that figure but I'm never really sure how they counted the thoughts. In other words, there's a lot of thinking happening. Other scientists say that in a minute, you can speak about 125 words, but you can think about 500. You know how your mind is doing many jobs. In psychology, they say that your mind can be aware on 7 different levels at any given moment. What an incredible instrument. It's just like me now. I am talking into my computer. I am looking at all of you there. I am aware of what I need to think about next. Someone just came in the room near me. You know, your mind is processing so much information. And this mind never stops, even when you sleep. How important is it to do something for the mind? And let's look at the state of mind today. Just look at your mind. Imagine your mind is like a sacred space where your whole life is happening up here, but there's gateways into your mind. So one of the gateways is your ears. You hear a comment, someone criticizes you. You let it into your ear, into your mind, and you begin to react. Can you stop it? You can't stop. Your eyes are another gateway. I maybe see some bad behavior, some behavior I don't like. I don't think it's appropriate. I see it through my eyes, I let it into my mind, and it drives my thinking. Sometimes these things are so powerful, I cannot even sleep at night. So where's my inner leadership? It's like the external world is driving my internal world. The world is influencing my thinking and my feeling. I've really lost my inner leadership. What am I doing when I meditate? And really, meditation is sitting down and starting to create the thoughts I want. So rather than the mind being driven by the external world, meditation starting to take back my inner leadership. I sit down and I start to create the thoughts I want. And when I create thoughts I want, it starts to create feelings I want. So I'm taking one major step back to regaining my inner sovereignty or my inner power. So the first step of spiritual intelligence, I would say, is to begin to learn about my mind and begin to take responsibility. You know, most of us think because someone behaves badly or is rude or is difficult, and I have negative thoughts, I blame them for how I feel. No, I choose every thought and I have a choice. I can react to their bad behavior or not react. I choose to react. And so I choose to be disturbed. Someone with inner leadership decides, maybe I don't agree with that behavior, but I'm not going to overthink about that behavior. Now, I know it's easy to say, but inner leadership is about regaining my spiritual power. And I would say the second step of inner leadership is to know and experience who I am. Because when I start to know and experience who I am, it's another major step to regaining my authority or my inner leadership. And if I ask that question, if I was to ask all of you, who am I wonder what you would say. I often feel that there's like 3 personalities sitting inside all of us. I would say 2 of them are weak. 2 of them can't lead the inner self, but 1 of them starts to help me become the inner master. The first personality takes its whole sense of identity from my temporary body. I call this the eye of arrogance or the I of superiority. And this personality, this I, has a whole thinking, feeling, behavioral structure. Now, when this I is ruling my inner world, I compare with others and I think, I am better, I know more, I am right. Probably one of the main measures of ego, which is really a sign of loss of inner leadership, is that I feel the way I see life, the way I perceive things is right. But when this I is ruling and it comes into my feelings, that's when I feel so easily insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, sensitive. Now you think all those emotions, when I feel insulted, your mind goes into overdrive. When I feel sensitive, I feel so easily hurt. It's like my mind takes over and I can't stop my thinking. And when my ego is really, in a sense, playing the role of a leader, that's the leadership that is very bossy, controlling, forceful, and dominating. I would say our world is rejecting this leadership at the moment, not only in politics, in all aspects of life. Dominating, forceful, controlling leadership, which has the seed of ego, just does not work anymore. And so in this journey to taking back my sense of power, my inner leadership, one of the main enemies is ego. What is the role of ego? Ego will make you feel separate. Ego tells you that you don't belong. And ego makes you feel not only sort of separate from others, you know, in your mind is always us and them, me and you. I feel different. I feel I don't belong. And often I blame other people, but it's my own ego creating that sense of distance. There's a deep relationship between ego and love. The inner leader, the true inner leader, is the master of love. The more ego I have, the less love I am experience, the less lovable I am. And really, that's why this first I is the I of arrogance. It's my ego. Is actually, it doesn't allow me. It's the thing that has taken away my inner leadership. The second I is what I call the ego of inferiority, the I of lack of self-respect. And this I also takes its whole sense of identity from my temporary body. Who am I? I see myself as a whole set of temporary labels based on my gender, my culture, my religion, my education. Dozens of different labels gives me a sense of identity. All the labels are temporary. And when this I is ruling, I also compare with others. And I think others are better. Others know more. Others don't love me. Others don't respect me. Others don't value me. And when it comes into my feelings, I would say that's when I feel so easily disrespected, you know, not valued, hopeless, inadequate, inferior, unworthy. I would even say depressed. And the World Health Organization tells us that 1 in 4 of us is depressed. It's amazing, really. And in psychology, depression is like a sadness that my dream in life to be loved and valued hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. I'm living my life, but who am I really? Am I all these temporary labels, or am I something more? And really, when my mind is led by my ego of superiority and my ego of inferiority, or my ego and lack of self-respect, what happens? Up and down, huge mood swings. One day I'm up, the next day I'm down. 1 hour I'm up, the next hour I'm down. Massive mood swings. The third eye is the original eye. And this is the step back into true inner leadership. This eye thinks that I am a soul, the consciousness. The soul is a wonder. The soul is just a point. And really, you know, a point exists in mathematics. I don't know whether any of you are mathematicians, but in mathematics, a point exists, but it has no physical size, no length, breadth, or width. The soul is absolutely subtle. The soul is consciousness. I am the soul, and the soul has no labels. It's my body. The soul actually sits in the front of the brain. The soul is not male or female, Thai or Australian or Indian or any of those things. Buddhist, Christian, Sikh, Hindu. It has no label whatsoever. And in a sense, a part of the journey back to regaining my inner authority and my inner leadership is to start to know and realize who I am. And this is beginning to understand that I, the soul, am eternal, immortal, non-physical energy. I've lived before this body, and I will continue after this body. In fact, I am the leader. I, the soul, am the leader of the mind. I, the soul, am the leader of the sense organs. And when the sense organs hear negative things, and I let them in here to drive my thinking, that means I've lost my power over my body and my sense organs. The soul is like the ruler or the authority. And in a sense, meditation is taking back that authority once again. And you know, my own experience, it's like coming home to a place inside where you really feel you belong. You take the pressure off yourself to look good, to be noticed, to impress people. I just begin to accept myself as I am. And the incredible beauty is that when I just don't know and believe, I begin to experience who I am. Naturally, I feel peace. So spiritual intelligence says, I need to know who I am, that I am this eternal soul. And secondly, to experience. When I experience who I am, you know, when you meditate, it's not that you know, sometimes, you know, people feel the aim of meditation is peace. I would say that's the result. The aim of meditation is to know and experience who I am, that I am the eternal soul. The automatic byproduct is a mind that cools down, a mind that really becomes so quiet. This is my own experience. I would say meditation is like inner research into your own mind. You begin to research many an experiment, and you start to use your own thoughts to create a fragrance of peace in your mind. This is a major step in taking back my inner power and my inner well-being. The human mind and the human body needs peace to live properly in this world. And so the inner leader begins to understand the mind and understand I've lost control. The external world is controlling. But as I meditate, I start to create the thoughts. What thoughts? The thoughts about the permanent self. So this is the beginning of meditation. As I begin to meditate, I start to create thoughts. Who am I? And actually, it's not just thinking. I actually learn to step back, withdraw, and let go the consciousness of my body so that I feel I sit so lightly in the forehead. And I begin to see the reality of human life is a beautiful dance between the soul and the body. I, the soul, act and express through the body. But at some time, I'm going to leave this body and take another one. This is natural. This is life. But often what happens is that because I've identified with this temporary body, I've built up so much fear of losing this body. The law of life says, whatever I attach my heart to, I will fear losing that thing. And so when I attach my heart to my identity, to possessions, people, all these things, I just build so much fear and anxiety into my life. Wisdom is to love everything, love my family, love everything. But it's when I attach my heart that I build so much fear. And what is happening in our world at the moment is that because of this virus, which we see, that we are fearing loss of or change in our world around us. And so my first step towards inner leadership, to know and understand my mind. The second is to know and experience who I am. The third step is really, how do I build this power to remain the inner leader? And I would say the great method is the experience of love. And the great power spiritually is the power of love. When I observe my life and all the things I value, it's definitely the experience of love. My observation is when the heart is full of love, I feel so easy and relaxed, content. And I'm definitely more compassionate and understanding towards others. But when the heart lacks love, the mind can never rest. You know, the agitated mind, you know, that mind is just constantly going. It can never stop. It can never just go, just relax. Why? Because, you know, a lack of true love. And the first need is love. The first desire is love. If that desire isn't fulfilled, a million other desires come. Desire for power, desire for control, desire for material things, desire for wealth. All these desires merge because the first need of the human spirit to experience a quality of love that nurtures my inner being, hasn't been there. There are three sources of love. The first is myself. The second is God or the divine. And the third is others. For most of us, unfortunately, our relationship with ourself is not very healthy. As I was saying at the beginning, I feel that the world is like it is, this dysfunctional world because of this first relationship with me is dysfunctional. With God, I have a feeling that some people have a faith in God, deep faith, but do we really feel loved and belonging? So my one source of love in life is my family and friends. And if there's an upheaval, if there's a conflict, it's like my whole life goes into chaos. What is inner leadership? Inner leadership is first developing a loving relationship with myself as a soul, rebuilding my self-mastery, the soul actually beginning to become the master of the mind, not with force, but with love and wisdom, and the master of the sense organs too. And the second is a loving relationship with the divine or the supreme being. And why is this important? Because sometimes we hear these ideas, we like them, but where do I really get the strength to apply them? Where do I get that determination or willpower not to just let the negativity overtake my mind, not to let the frustration about someone's behavior take me over, not to let the anger about what someone has done infect me inside? Where do I get this power? And this is why really meditation is, first of all, knowing and realizing I'm the soul and connecting the mind to the supreme being, the supreme soul. And right behind me, as I'm sitting here, is an image of light, which I see as the image of the divine, the image of God, the universal image of God, which most faiths usually have some comfort with. And meditation is not just sitting and believing, it's actually connecting in a real relationship. And so just like I am a soul and I'm acting through this body, you can see me, I've performed actions and I reap the fruit. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm not happy. God is a soul beyond the effect. God is eternally pure, a soul that retains truth, a soul that's an unlimited ocean of peace and love, but not just a belief or an intellectual idea or a concept or a line in a scripture, a real living being, as real as me. I'm a soul expressing through my face. You can see me. God is a soul, exists, but does not have a physical body. So to communicate, what I need to do is let go the consciousness of my body and through the eye of the mind connect. I once knew a woman in Germany. She was a psychologist, and she did an experiment with another psychologist friend about telepathy. And it was really a very interesting experiment because what they wanted to know, they synchronized their watches, and whenever they thought of each other, they wrote it down to the second. And when they compared notes after 3 months, 70% were accurate. In other words, your thoughts have an energy, your thoughts touch. The wonder of your thoughts is they're faster than light, they're instant, they do connect. So when you are meditating, you are actually connecting with the Supreme Soul. And this is really the source of power to regain my inner leadership. And I would say that many times today, people find that you know, the idea of meditating is not so easy. You know, I think many of us, I imagine all of us on this call have tried meditation. We may be regular. We all know how vague my mind is, how my mind wanders in a second. Let's be honest, that's real. And this is why these days, I often say, we just need to remember the most natural thing of the human mind and intellect is to remember. And, you know, at every second you're remembering what you have to do, what you said to somebody, what somebody said to you, you are constantly remembering. And I'm just using this natural function to remember the highest source. Why? Because 3 things happen when you remember. You connect, and when you connect, you're influenced, and when you're influenced, you have a feeling. So if you're sitting here now as I'm speaking, and you're remembering a family member you love, you remember, you connect. It's like, imagine your mind, your intellect just connects. instantly if you love, if you've got a good relationship, you feel warm inside and you have an experience of peace and contentment. But if you remember a family member you're in conflict with, you're not getting on well, there's differences, there may be even rejection, the instant your mind touches, you feel bad, you feel heavy, you feel unhappy. The logic is to realize that wherever I connect my mind, I am going to be influenced, I'm going to have an experience. So if I go through the day and I dwell on a problem, I dwell on a worry, I dwell on what happened last week or what happened last year, I'm always thinking about what you said to me, I'm connecting with unhappiness. If you are unhappy, the question to ask yourself is, what am I remembering? And so the inner leader begins to pay attention to what I remember, because I know I will be influenced and I will download, I will live stream that energy into my mind. If I remember the divine, if I remember the God who's a source of love, peace, power, and happiness, what will my mind be like? If I keep remembering the past and keep remembering people who've hurt me, what will my mind be like? And this is really where the inner leader takes our power back and pays attention to what I remember. The more you meditate, the more inner strength you develop to remember the accurate things. And so the inner leader begins to learn and master the mind. The inner leader begins to feed the mind with thoughts of self-awareness. And when I become aware of who I am, I can connect with the divine. And that's when I get the determination, the willpower, the inner power to really not surrender to negative thinking, not give in to obstacles outside or problems, but I maintain my self-respect. The sign of the inner leader is that I have self-respect. As much as I have self-respect, I can respect others. As much as I have self-respect, I will be humble. As much as I have self-respect, I will be loving and others will love me. And as much as I have self-respect, life becomes easy. It's not a battle. The inner leader regrows my self-value. And so that no person, no situation changes how I feel about myself. At the moment, the world controls how I feel. The inner leader starts to take back a sense of self-mastery and self-sovereignty. So in a few moments, we will have a little bit of time for questions. And but before then, I'd just like to invite everyone for a few moments of meditation. And if I can just make a request that you just sit quietly wherever you are, put down phones, put down things that are distracting you, and just for these few moments, just sit really quietly and listen to the thoughts offered. The aim of these thoughts is not just to, intellectually listen, but to feel them inside. So I'm going to invite everybody just to relax, to sit quietly and calmly, and focus internally. We live in a world where we have so much knowledge of the world outside, and yet the world outside controls how I feel inside. Meditation is the journey to regain my inner leadership. And I first begin to look at my mind. Each thought I create is my creation. The first step of the inner leader is to take responsibility for my thoughts and my feelings. And to bring my mind into a sweet place of rest, of calm, a place where I feel deep inner peace and contentment. I need to feed my mind with thoughts of self-awareness. Just visualize yourself as a tiny spark of life energy, the soul, sitting so lightly in the center of the forehead. And just feel yourself withdrawing, stepping back from all the labels of your body. Feel yourself going beyond male and female, nationality, religion, profession, and feel yourself arriving towards your true self. I am a peaceful soul. Just feel your mind cooling down and feel this lovely fragrance of lightness and peace enter your inner world. And in this sweet state, look through the eye of your mind and visualize the form of the Supreme, the image behind me now. Bring all your attention towards the highest being, the form of light, an unlimited ocean of love. Don't let your mind wander, but feel pure love, divine love, true love emanating from this light. Just feel this pure love entering the core of your being. And watch how your mind becomes so still, so calm. And the more I feel loved, my self-esteem grows. I feel strong. And I can feel that I'm taking back the authority of my life. I don't feel a victim of situations and people, but in fact, I am the master. We now live in a world where nothing is certain. I can't rely on anything external. The world is telling me I have to become the inner leader. And if I can lead my inner world, I can remain stable and strong, no matter how much the world around me changes. It's so important to give time to this now. When you become strong, your stability, your mind will support everyone around you. Just being who you are will support your family and friends. This is the power of the inner leader. To meditate regularly is an act of love for myself. To meditate regularly is an act of love for myself. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate your patience, and there's just a Prachwal,
Yes.
please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Brother Charlie. That was a very beautiful experience with the self and the divine. Yes, Sister La, may we have you?
So, if anyone would like to ask a question, you can ask in the chat box, or even if Sister La wants to speak the question to me in English, I'm happy to answer. Anyone who's asked a question that you could ask me, because I can't hear Sister La, unfortunately.
There has been a question. As you said, brother, that in a leadership, the most important things are to build a relationship with the self. There's been a question that how to forgive ourselves if we intentionally make sins. How to forgive ourselves.
You know, it's funny how we self-sabotage ourselves. We intentionally do actions against my truth. And how will I feel about myself? It's very difficult to forgive the self, because it's almost like I'm proving to myself I'm no good. The biggest battle in life today is self-respect, to maintain a sense of self-value. And if I'm open with you, since I began to meditate, I not only meditate, but I follow a lifestyle where I try to be as peaceful and non-violent to myself, to others, to nature, to the world. And you know, when you observe yourself doing good actions, you're going to like yourself. If you observe yourself going against your truth, how do you feel inside? Your conscience bites. And this is why it's not just enough to meditate. It's like I need a spiritual lifestyle as well. Because to be very frank with you, many people say my meditation's not good, my mind wanders. And I often say it's not when you sit to meditate. It's your actions throughout the day. If you're gossiping, criticizing, getting angry, can you meditate? You can't. And this is why really we are at a time where the more I live a lifestyle according to truth, I'm going to feel better. If I do negative actions, if I think negative thoughts, how can I really be happy? I need to really strengthen myself. And then we say, well, how do you do that? By knowing the self and knowing the divine. It's a method, it's a platform to build back your inner strength. And then you can do actions you're proud of. If I do bad actions intentionally, how will I feel? If I yell and scream and am angry at people I love, deep down, I don't like who I am. And so really, when you meditate, you raise your consciousness and you can do good actions. When you do good actions, it enables you to have more good thoughts and have better meditation.
It's very nice, Brother Charlie. Connecting to that, Brother Charlie, there's another question. It says, it's that if I can do good, but what if the person in front of us, people are being difficult to handle? Then what do we do?
You know, I'm going to tell you, this is the most common question. At every event, we get asked this question: how to deal with difficult people, rude people. Life means people will be difficult, people will be rude. The wisdom is to understand I have no control over them, but I have control over my reactions to people. And you know, we are often control freaks. We want to control people to behave according to the way I want. And unfortunately, that is not going to happen. And this is where really I find that the more you meditate, the more you step into your self-respect, you are not influenced by others' behavior. Even your own children, can you control their behavior? You can't. And so a lot of people spend their life feeling so disturbed up here about my family and my friends or my community and how they behave. That is my problem. It's not their problem. And this is where I think a spiritual life is an honest life. I'm saying I can't change them, but I can change me. And I can say I've learned over the years, if I can use the language of being more a detached observer, meaning I feel close to people, I love people, I care for people, but I've learned not to be influenced by people and their behaviors. This is freedom. This is freedom. It's so important.
Yes, brother, that's very true. Sister La, I think we can have you. I think we'll be able to hear you now as the language.
Connect to whatever. Can you just connect me with him?
Sister La. And Brother Charlie.
Can Brother Charlie hear me now?
I can hear you, Sister La. I can hear you.
Can you see me? Can you see
I
me
can
now?
see you and hear you, finally. Thank you.
I don't want to be seen, but I just wanted to communicate from eye to eye. So beautiful, Charlie. I'm going to be recorded and I'm going to be really step by step and encourage people to be a leader. The one last question I would like to just introduce Brahma Kumari at the same time is like the philosophy or the knowledge imparted by Brahma Kumari is not to just to convert anyone, not out to convert anyone to be a follower, but to be a leader. But what is your experience seeing the leader, you know, by having this spiritual knowledge imparted by Brahma Kumari? Could you get my point? Yeah.
Yes, I do, because, you know, I was once, I met one of the Under-Secretary Generals of the United Nations, and he was the Under-Secretary General for Political Affairs. It was a long time ago. It was the time of Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, but I asked him...
I need to translate now. Sorry, I need Pachwa. Can you get back to my translation?
Maybe if you go on mute, then yes. I'm just waiting for her to catch up.
Yeah.
And I asked him, this Under-Secretary General of the UN, who's the most impressive leader you've met? And he said Daddy Prakashmani, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris at that time, and he was dealing with all the presidents of America, Russia, China, the world. Because he said she had that self-control, and people have respect for a leader who has self-mastery. Why so much respect for Mahatma Gandhi? Because he had some self-mastery. Why so much respect for Nelson Mandela? The same sort of thing. Really, a leader is not because you have a position on your door that you're the boss. A leader is in who you are as a person. And it's all to do with control of your inner world. You will automatically and naturally become a leader when you become a master of your inner world. And to me, that's, you know, the more you control your inner world, people will respect you automatically. When you have self-respect, people will respect you.
Brother Charlie, there's also connecting to that, there's a person who has shared his experience. I'll quote his words. He says, I realize that I can't remember the divine lovingly, especially in the morning time, Amrit Vela, when I think how unworthy I am, as they're sometimes blocking me. I think I'm tired of myself of repeating the same sins. What should I do?
You know, that's a beautiful question, because, you know, people sit with a pure intent to experience God, but the biggest block is our sense of inferiority, our sense of unworthiness. And that doesn't allow me to connect. And really, the whole of spiritual life is healing the first relationship with me. Quite honestly, as I said at the beginning, the reason our world is so chaotic, because this first relationship in all human beings is so damaged. The more I allow myself to be loved, and this is important, even though I might have weaknesses, I might have done some bad things, when I learn to experience the love of the divine, that is the first step to a deep healing process where I start to feel better about who I am, more worthy, and I get the power then to do good actions. And this is what I feel. If I wake up in the morning and I sit to meditate and all I think is, oh, I'm no good and I've done this and I'm hopeless, then what am I going to experience? Put the pause button on that. Just become a soul and understand, yes, I've done actions that have made me unhappy, but now I want to change, and allow yourself to be loved. And if you see yourself blocking that love, look, why do I block this love? It's this love of the divine that's going to heal me and begin to change me and transform me and make me strong once again. Never, ever give up. Never, ever give up. Because your old self will keep saying, you're no good, you're hopeless, you're not good enough, you're never going to make it. Don't listen to that. You will make it. Everyone goes through this in the spiritual journey. Okay, I am going to thank you so much for having me. It's been a delight to meet everybody. And if I'm going to have to leave now, and I'd especially like to thank Sister La for inviting me.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure, Sister La. I've known Sister La
for very much.
I think
รู้จักซิสเตอร์ลามา
35 years at least.
30 กว่าปีแล้ว35 ปีได้แล้วมั้ง
And anyway, I really appreciate being with you. So thank you so much, Sister Prajwal, too.
Thank you so much, Brother Charlie. It was very nice. Session was very helpful for many, I can see. But just a last note, I want to comment what a brother said. He says that he can feel your vibrations and he feels really peaceful. So thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your time. Hope to meet you again.
Yes.
Bye-bye.